The Coast Guard is aware of illegally imported products that are coming into the United States that aren't meeting federal regulations. Some of these products are actually manufactured here in the United States. Some of them are being manufactured overseas and are being imported. And it's a serious concern for the consumer because they might not be aware that these products are not meeting the federal regulations or the standards that are there to protect them. We have regulations and standards that are in place to ensure that the products meet those minimum safety requirements. And some of these products are items such as life jackets, navigation lights, you know, uh, electronic visual distress signals, and each of these products need to meet a certain requirement. And to the unsuspecting buyer, if they are purchasing some of these products through e-commerce, they might not know that whether or not that product actually is meeting the minimum safety specs. One of those items, life jackets, for example, there's a federal regulation that states that each person on a vessel has to have a Coast Guard approved life jacket, appropriately sized. However, there are a lot of other non-Coast Guard approved life jackets that are for sale on the e-commerce. For example, they make the product that's called impact vests, and the impact vest, it sounds great. It sounds great it sounds really cool to have one of those. You can have those on your vessel as a supplement to the Coast Guard approved life jackets. However, they probably do not meet the appropriate buoyancy standards, etc. But the challenge is when the average consumer is online, they don't know the difference between an approved life jacket or an unapproved life jacket. They're just looking at price point, whether or not it looks great, whether or not it's something that they can put on the boat and it's going to be good for the family. But they're not delving deep enough to be able to see whether or not it's actually going to be checking the box for the carriage requirements. Another product that we've seen that's illegally imported into the U.S. are nav lights. Nav lights that are not meeting the arc visibility requirements, that are not meeting the color or the luminosity requirements per the regulations. We've seen these for sale on some of the big, very popular, retailers that are out there. We've seen them listed as meets the requirements of the Coast Guard navigation lights. That we've seen the picture of them on the boat, being used as a red and green starboard and port and starboard running light. We've seen some false advertising of them. They'll say that they're accent lighting, for example. So they'll say they're accent lighting, and then they put the red and green on the port and starboard of the bow of the boat, which is giving a false impression. So these are some of the issues that we have. Consumers, I think, will also need to know that there are certain tools that the Coast Guard has that you can go to verify whether or not your like, for example, your life jacket, whether or not it meets those requirements. There's the CG, what we call the CG mix page, MIX. So the Coast Guard is constantly working to collaborate with U.S. Customs and Border Protection, especially as we look for products that are coming across into our ports. It's something that our office is working more and more on, trying to provide training to Customs because it's difficult for Customs agents because they're not an expert in every single product that comes in. And the big part is to try and provide Customs with points of contact that they can reach out to whenever there are boats or associated equipment that are coming in. The Coast Guard, or I'm sorry, the Federal Regulation 19 CFR 12.85 gives Customs the the authority to ensure that any boats that are imported in the U.S. They have to meet all of the recreational boat building standards. So that's a fantastic tool right there. But it's getting the awareness out there with customs and trying to establish a collaboration. That's one of the directions that our office is taking right now to try and improve upon that collaboration. So there's misleading information that's on some of these e-commerce websites. There's a big difference between accent lighting and navigation lighting, for example. The Coast Guard has seen where there are, some of these LED strip lights that clearly don't meet the arc of visibility requirements. And they are being listed as navigation light kits, and if you're going on a reputable marine supplier's e-commerce website, and if I read that there were navigation lights, that's what I would take it to be. They're red, they're green, and they'll see that it's an LED strip that might be 12 inches long, and you think, well, more's better, right? If I just make the whole side of the boat red, then it's clearly going to be be a lot more visible. So it's important to know as a consumer that there are requirements, there are certain things that you want to look for. Buyer beware is definitely a major issue here. Once you buy it, then you're kind of stuck with it. You can try and return it, but there are definitely products that are out there that aren't meeting the safety requirements, and I think that's a big takeaway for consumers. There are standards and regulations for these products, such as life jackets, for example. Life jackets go through the UL testing. You can find them again. You can find them on the CG Mix web page. And there's a large cost associated with doing the testing for these legitimate companies that are going through the correct stages. And sometimes you can get an idea or a feeling when you're looking at e-commerce, based on price point. There are certain products on e-commerce websites such as Temu or Alibaba, for example. They're selling kit boats or put together boats or small inflatable boats, and they are literally half the price of what you would expect to be buying for that kind of product. I think that a lot of times the consumer's like, oh, this is great. I can get this super cheap. So I'm just going to go ahead and, buy this product that's half the cost of what I've seen anywhere else. But that should be, I think, a warning sign right there to think, hey, wait a second, here I am getting it online from a website that is not necessarily reputable, and the price is a lot cheaper. There might be a reason for that.